Welcome to the Mental Health Podcast, Constant Counseling. My name is DC Constant, and my intention with this podcast is to discuss the challenges faced by mental health students and professionals. Now, just a quick summary about me. I'm a third-year clinical mental health counseling student at Florida Gulf Coast University. And my focus area in counseling is working with couples and families and to specialize as a sex therapist. Now, additionally, I am a 2024 NBCC MFP Fellow. Once again, that's a whole lot of acronyms. And all that just stands for is the National Board of Certified Counselors Minority Fellowship Program at the master's level. I have completed Gottman Method for Couples Therapy Level 1 at the university level as part of the University Outreach Program. Now, I had recorded this episode before, but it was brought to my attention that the last episode had just a little bit of some audio issues. So I figured I'm all about the quality rather than the quantity, so I wanted to re-record this episode in its entirety and make sure that you guys are getting the breadth of information that I wanted to be able to put out there. Now, during my time as a couples counselor in training while in internship, I've gotten the privilege to learn how to do couples counseling through a systemic focused lens. Now, being systemic just means understanding that a person's problems are best seen as symptoms of a larger repeating pattern of interaction within their family or relationship. So instead of focusing on fixing one person, the therapist's job is to help the entire system, like the couple or the family, to identify and change basically this unhealthy dance or cycle they've been stuck in. Now, when starting couples counseling, there are obviously some key things that you would naturally go over as you would even in an individual session. And one of those aspects is informed consent, which is basically going over what are the rules and regulations and what they can expect out of counseling. This would also include that they're going to hurt themselves or someone else, or if there are any children being hurt or children in danger or any elderly or vulnerable populations, that these would be things that would be mandated to report. Now, these things can also differ on your location, your region, and your state laws, so make sure you check those up as well. Also, in going over that, you would also go over with the couples the aspects of no secrets. There is always a no secrets policy instituted with couples counseling. So basically, whatever partner A tells you in a breakout session is fair game for partner B to know at any point in time and for you to mention any point in time in any sessions. This allows the therapist to maintain a very neutral alignment. And we're going to go over the aspects of breakout sessions in just a moment. But what's also important in couples counseling is to let the couple know what to expect. That this is not a quick fix and that this is process oriented. What's very important for this to know is that the problems that they have been saturated in for probably months or even years is not going to be fixed overnight. And so seeing me in counseling for once a week, or any couples therapist that matter, is only a part of the process. We all know that most of the work that the client does is going to typically be even outside of therapist space, but we act as a guide to help facilitate some of that change that they're looking to create. It's also important to let the couples know that you are going to take a bit of a directive approach. And trust me, if you don't do it in couples counseling, you'll be sorry. The reason why this is important is to let the couples know what it is that you are seeing and what is the type of behavior that you wanted to pause or stop in real time. It's important that you don't allow the same behaviors that they create at home to be reenacted within therapeutic space. Now, another aspect in couples counseling is to let them know your theoretical orientation. And basically what this is, for those of you who may not be in the mental health field, is basically the therapist's approach to counseling or therapy. Now, some therapists may be CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. Some may be DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy. I myself am narrative therapy. So what I let them know is that I'm going to look at the stories they have shaped about themselves and their identities and how that is showing up in their relationship and how it's playing out. And hopefully getting to them to a point where they can re-author their story about the relationship and see who they can be by changing the story and the narrative of how they're experiencing this relationship. And that's just one way of explaining that aspect. Now, I've talked to a lot of mental health professionals which feel that when you get out in the field, you do become eclectic, or there's not much of a need to really explain your theoretical orientation to clients. Now, while I could understand that, I do think that if we are able to explain as much as a process of counseling in a way where the client can understand that this is actually a great way to build rapport and trust, and it creates this transparency as for what they can expect. Now, going back to the aspects of no secrets, it's really important that you let the couple know that there might be times you may align with partner A and there may be times you may align with partner B. but it's not that you're taking sides, you're there to help generate insight. And this also once again lets it be known that you are not there to take sides and maintains that neutral stance. There could also be a time where sometimes one partner in the couple subsystem directly calls you out and says, hey, I think you're taking sides right now. But see, it's in that moment you could remind them what you said in session 1 about, hey, remember in session 1 where I said there might be times where I may align with one person over the other, but that it's not to take sides, but it's helping to generate insight? Well, that's what's happening right here in this moment. Now, in couples counseling, typically the way it's done, or the way I'm taught that it's done, is that session 1 you see the couple subsystem together. Session 2 you see partner A. Session 3 you see partner B. Then session 4 you come back together and let them know what your findings are. Now your findings will be that of what we call a systemic hypothesis. And basically what that is basically the cycles and patterns the couples have been in based on what they've shared with you. And it's important to make that clear so they don't feel that it's an inference or a judgment that you are making about their relationship. But this is basically what they've all shared with you. An example of the systemic hypothesis could be partner A gets upset, partner B retreats, partner C does this, partner A, B, D does this, etc., etc., etc. And you go down the line and the cycle continues. You're showing them how one aspect behavior leads to another response, to another response, to another response, and the cycle continues. And what you're doing, you are physically presenting them with the systemic hypothesis. It's one thing to show a client the pattern. It's one thing to tell a client the patterns they've been in, but it's another thing to actually show them. And what it does, it actually makes it very real for them. And it also can in a way help them identify ways that they can actually start and to begin to interrupt those patterns and cycles that they've been in. Now, another key aspect here is in looking at the systemic hypothesis, they pick from the systemic hypothesis what they feel is the most pressing matter in the relationship or what's showing up the most. And then you base the treatment plan off of that. This allows the treatment process to be very collaborative. It happens way too often that counselors in training like myself, or even really seasoned therapists really out there, are always trying to own so much of the change process for the clients. But when you keep it collaborative, this allows the clients to feel some type of agency and ownership over the change that they are wanting to make about their relationship. Now, in regards to the relationship, I realize I have to touch on this part. It's always important to let the couple subsystem know that neither partner A is a client or partner B is the client. The relationship is the client. And that's a very different way of operating couples counseling. Now, remember when I talked earlier about those breakout sessions where you see in session 2 and 3 partner A and B separately? During those sessions, you'll be asking and probing to see what is their response and what is their contribution to the problem. It's very common that couples will try to tell you everything that the other person is doing wrong. And you know what? There's probably some validity to that. But what I'm going to be looking at is what is your role and your contribution in this problem? Now, one of the things that we do, as you remember I talked about before with the theoretical orientation, with Minds Being Narrative Therapy, one of the key interventions with narrative is externalization. And what externalization does is to help the couple subsystem see is that neither partner A is a problem or partner B is a problem, but the problem is the problem. Now, the only exceptions to that is the only things that you never externalize is infidelity or abuse. Oh no. But everything else is pretty much fair game at that point. And what we're doing with externalization is to help the couple see that if neither of us are the problem, but the problem is the problem, how can we work together against the problem? See, a lot of times in couples counseling, a lot of couples will come in, as we say in narrative therapy, in a problem-saturated story. And they will be immersed in the content of what this person did at 5 o'clock in the morning at this time on the 10th of November. But it's very important as you as a couples counselor that you remain what, as we call, process-oriented. It's also very common that couples will come in with very vague understandings of what's happening. Most times couples will come in and say, we're here because we need to learn how to communicate better. And my question to them is always, what are we here to learn how to communicate better about? Because truth be told, they communicate in the car, they communicate in the lobby, they communicate all the way on the walk into the room for the session. So what are we here to communicate better about? It's very important with couples counseling that you remain process-oriented, to remain concise, and to get succinct on what the goals for the couple of what they want for their relationship to be. Now, once you've gotten to that place where you've been able to formulate the treatment plan based on what the couple wanted to work on, I'm just going to go over very briefly what are some interventions that you may use with couples counseling that are very popular for couples counseling. One of them is the famous I statements. I feel because when you do this. What I statements does is it helps a person express how they feel without this being this attack on the person. So you never say you do this, but I feel that when you do this, it makes me feel, it hurts me, etc., etc. It's keeping it on them, right? So that way this could be something that the partner could be able to receive and be able to hear. Another thing that's very important in couples counseling is couples positioning, where sometimes you might see in a lot of couple training videos for those of you who are studying to work with couples or mental health programs that the couples are typically facing the camera, and that's usually for training purposes. But in most couples counseling, you will see the couples are utilizing couples positioning where they're directly facing one another. One person is sitting in front of the other person. And what this does is that way to help create intimacy and bonding. Because remember, they're not there to communicate with a therapist. They're there to communicate with each other. When I go into the process of couples counseling, I see myself as almost like a director coming to set. And I have these two actors in front of me that are playing out a story, right? And sometimes they are reenacting exactly what's happening at home. And what I'm looking for is the patterns and the themes and the cycles and the stories that are emerging. What is the story that partner A is telling themselves about their relationship? What is the story that partner B is telling themselves about the relationship? And how is that wide-held belief or story or narrative that they develop is playing out with their responses in this relationship? Lastly, I want to say, in wrapping up this very brief episode in this introduction to the process of couples counseling, is that in working with couples, I will say that it's made me feel a lot more clinically more confident because I'm balancing out a whole entire system. I'm not just working with one person, but two. Initially, I have to say that you learn a lot about someone in couples counseling twice as quicker than you would in an individual session because couples counseling, well, essentially our relationships have a way of bringing things out of us so much quicker because it's a really vulnerable part of our lives that we as therapists and student interns and counselors in training tend to be able to tap into in this process. And it's not something that I take lightly. I'm watching people at some of their most vulnerable part of their lives open up about something that means so near and dear to so many of them, which is a relationship. Now, in circling back to that initial part meeting with the couples, one of the things that's asked typically in couple session when I start off my beginning sessions with them is, how did you meet? What did you like about each other? And this is an opportunity to help soften them up because typically in couples counseling, there's always that one partner that didn't really want to come in the first place. And this is the way to help soften them up, but also a way to build rapport, right? This is very important because what happens a lot of times is sometimes when couples counseling is ineffective, it's because the therapist is doing individual counseling with the couple. And what that means is that they may stay very content oriented and within a linear perspective when they need to become very systemic with how they do things with this couple. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I do plan to go into more and expand more on these aspects in a part 2. But for now, I'll bid you adieu with some of the stuff I've given you here today. And I want to thank you for listening to Constant Counseling, where sometimes counseling is a constant process. Thanks for listening. This has been Constant Counseling. Thanks for listening, guys.